He had 3 blue pills in his hand.
3 blue pills.
3 blue pills, and he put his hand out, and I said, "What are those?" And he said, "They'll help you relax." And I said, "Like, are they natural? Are they like a herbal remedy?" He said, "No, they're your friends. Just put them down."
They're your friends.
They're your friends. Just put them down.
Swallow.
And he hands me some water. I get some water somehow, and I swallow the 3 pills down.
Why do you do that?
I took them because I trusted that they would maybe just help me feel a little more relaxed.
You trusted him?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
New evidence proves legendary entertainer Dr. Bill Cosby is innocent. In 2004, comedian Bill Cosby was blindsided when he was falsely accused of the sexual assault of 29-year-old Andrea Constand. Constand alleged America's dad, Bill Cosby, TV star of The Cosby Show, drugged her and sexually assaulted her at his home in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. At the time, Montgomery County DA Bruce Castor decided not to pursue the initial charges filed against Mr. Cosby, citing insufficient, credible, and admissible evidence. Ms. Constand had given multiple statements that had inconsistencies within them, and also behavior detailed within them that I thought was inconsistent with the behavior of a person who had been sexually assaulted.
Bill Cosby is back on TV, but it's not the comeback he was looking for. More and more women are accusing the comedian of drugging and sexually assaulting them.
I remember being over there and not having any clothes on.
You were naked.
Tonight, in this, her first network television interview, Therese Serenese tells 2020 about her experience with Bill Cosby when she was just a 19-year-old model visiting Las Vegas in 1976. She says in Cosby's private dressing room after a performance, he handed her some pills.
And then he said, "Take these."
Did he tell you what they were?
No.
Did he tell you why?
No.
You referred to, when you were discussing the prior bad acts, I thought I heard you refer to them as prior crimes. Did you do so?
I don't know if I did. It was inadvertent, and I generally say prior bad acts and I'm well aware of the rules. It doesn't have to be a conviction in order to be a prior bad act. It can be crimes or other acts. And in this case, there are other acts. I've made no, if I did make an assertion that it was a crime, it was inadvertent, and I apologize.
Counsel, share with me your position of the use of prior bad acts dating back as far as 37 years ago to 1984 with Heidi Thomas, and how that is probative of current.
Okay. The court had all 19 of those witnesses to consider. So he had the time frames of all those witnesses that closed up some of the gaps to more sufficiently demonstrate this recurring pattern or this recurring sequence of events of the defendant isolating, intoxicating, and then sexually assaulting young women.
Counsel, that segues me into one additional question. Sure. Let's talk about that. My understanding of the facts of this case was that the Judge O'Neill, permitted the Commonwealth, out of those 19 witnesses, to choose any 5 and then introduce them, correct?
No, that's not correct, Your Honor. The court allowed the Commonwealth to choose 5 out of 8. So we had, He said we could choose any 5 from number 12 through 19.
Counsel, Justice Baer, and again, I'm just trying to follow up. Most of the argument today has been whether or not this evidence falls under 404B and it's admissible at all. But I think I started this argument an hour ago by asking your worthy opponent about abuse of discretion. And I'm still there to some extent. Did you advocated putting all 19 in? Is that correct? Oh, I lost you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you now. You advocated putting all 19 in.
We did.
All right. 150? Is there any point at which we're not trying whether or not the defendant assaulted the victim, but rather trying whether the defendant assaulted one of the other 19 or 18 or 5? And again, I recognize abuse of discretion is a broad standard, but you can still get to the point with evidence that's terribly probative that it's just too much and that this defendant did not have a fair trial?
Well, Your Honor, again, like the
window, it's admissible, but the amount of it is such that the weight was conflated the issue from whether this defendant did this crime to whether he did the other 5 or 18 or 19.
So he made the determination what would have been unfairly prejudicial or what was too cumulative. And that's what the job of the trial court, to exercise his discretion and do that. And importantly, there's no right line rule that 4 prior bad acts are too much, or 5 or 6. It depends on the facts and circumstances of each case. And there have been several cases in this Commonwealth that have allowed in more prior bad acts. For instance, in Commonwealth versus Frank, a Superior Court case, which I cited in my brief, a therapist was on trial for assaulting a young boy, sexually assaulting a young boy.
Ms. Jaffe, Tom Saylor, but that conduct you described, the steps, the young women, there's literature that says that's common to 50% of these assaults, thousands of assaults nationwide.
It's the fact that the defendant built trust in his victims because of their mentoring relationship, because of...
Well, I understand that, but you see, if that was the case, I mean, maybe you dispute the literature, but in the briefs, they cite treaties and literature that says that's common to 40 or 50% of these assaults nationwide, the number in the thousands.
Well, perhaps it is true that 50% of sexual assaults or drug-induced sexual assaults.
How can that be a common scheme?
According to what's in the defendant's brief, there's been no evidence at trial as to any statistics, and I would submit that's not part of the trial record, so that shouldn't be considered by this court. But, Your Honor, the defendant engaged in a pattern by this court. But, Your Honor, the defendant engaged...
Well, I understand your argument. I tend to agree that this evidence was extraordinarily prejudicial to your client.
So his plan was to intoxicate young women to eliminate consent. And thirdly, Your Honor, I would submit that the evidence...
Counsel, I apologize for interrupting you, but you keep saying the 5 women were sexually assaulted. It's my understanding that the last individual, the young woman that was interviewed for a part on the Cosby show, there's no allegations of sexual contact. It's that she took a medication, fell asleep, and woke up.
Yes, Your Honor.
So share with me, how can you represent that there was sexual abuse on that person when the record evidence indicates just the opposite?
Your Honor, I would submit that the signature was isolating and intoxicating young women for the purpose of sexually assaulting them. And Lisa Loveland, you're correct, Your Honor. She did in fact testify that she has no recollection of being sexually assaulted. She has no recollection of what happened after the defendant gave her a drink. She drank it after the defendant asked her to sit in between his legs on the couch, which she deemed to be odd and inappropriate. And then he began stroking her hair. Then she basically passed out and was unconscious until she woke up 2 days later in her apartment, which she deemed to be odd and inappropriate. And then he began stroking her hair. There was a built-in level of trust because of his status in the entertainment industry and because he held himself out as a public moralist. The victims were legitimately in the defendant's presence because he invited them to the location within his control under a guise. And each incident occurred, again, in a location within the defendant's control. So he could intoxicate these people. Or in the case of Lisa Loveland, he engaged in what I would submit as untoward sexual conduct, inviting a young woman to sit in between his legs and then starting to pet and stroke her hair.
Counsel, this is Justice Donahue. What are you describing? Let me just...
I apologize.
Adjusting the question. The assault that took place here, the alleged assault that took place here, took place in the defendant's home after an 18-month relationship with Miss Constand, after meeting her mother, after going on trips with her. If you're talking about a signature, you better incorporate all of the facts that we have in the case that's on trial with what you are offering as a signature. because frankly, I don't see it.
With respect to your repeated argument about absence of mistake, how does that factor in here when Cosby never argued that he made a mistake or that he made an accident or something like that? He argued consent. Can you answer those two questions for me?
Sure, Your Honor. In terms of consent, I would submit that absence of mistake is routinely has been admitted in numerous cases or several cases in this Commonwealth to demonstrate.
But counsel, back to Justice Weck's question. The defendant here didn't claim that he made a mistake in thinking that there was consent. That's an adder by the Commonwealth in order to create a basis to assert this evidence.
Well, Your Honor, I disagree because perhaps it's just a matter of semantics, but the defendant was claiming consent. That was the defense. So liability to consent. So I would submit that they would be the same thing.
He wasn't asserting that at all. I mean, he was asserting consent. In order to proffer this evidence, the Commonwealth twisted that defense into, oh, now we're going to prove that there wasn't a mistake about the consent. They're really two totally different propositions.
Well, with all due respect, Your Honor, I don't see them as being different. However, also, the evidence was also admissible under absence of mistake to show that Andrea Constant was not conscious enough to consent.
Let me ask you this, counsel, before we get much deeper into this. Why did you need this evidence? You had you had the complainant who was capable of testifying, who did testify, and the question in this case was, who is the jury going to believe? The complainant who did testify, or the defendant, who had a different version of what occurred here? Why did you need prior bad acts evidence at all?
Your Honor, it was needed for several reasons. Number one, it was needed to corroborate the victim's testimony that she did not consent. Noting that if the evidence in that case was excluded, the Commonwealth would have to rely solely on the uncorroborated testimony of the victim to counter the defense consent of consent. Now, in Commonwealth versus Lucktish, that was a Superior Court case. The court allowed in 19-year-old sex assaults, and they were sex assaults going from 19 to 14 years before the current assault. And in that case, the court also let in another sexual assault, eight years before that. And Commonwealth...
Counsel, I apologize. I understand the case. I understand. I guess the question or concern that I have in Pennsylvania jurisprudence, what you're advocating is that 3 decades of an alleged prior bad act is admissible in a trial because there's no ceiling as to the staleness or remoteness. Yet we have to balance that against our own rule of 609 of evidence, in which the use of a conviction is considered stale in the impeachment of a witness, unless there's the other argument, unless it's more probative. So how is it that we are to digest the use of an alleged act is admissible 14 to 37 years later, yet we don't look as a trial lawyer and as a trial judge? I'm sure you, as a trial lawyer, have been exposed that when you try to introduce a stale conviction, it's objected to and usually sustained. How is it that what you're really asking us to do is to place an alleged prior bad act in being a superior position in its introduction into a trial as opposed to a conviction? I'm really struggling with that position.
Okay, and I'd be happy to answer that. But I first want to say I would disagree that it's routinely not allowed in if it's over 10 years old. And a case in point was in this case, one of our prior bad act victims had a prior conviction that was over 10 years, and that was allowed in by the trial court.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Mr. Cosby, keep in mind, Nixon put him on the Nixon's enemy list as a communist when he didn't perform in the White House. Okay, so you mean to tell me a guy whose shows were canceled, his entertainment life was disrupted, just wasn't in jail then, a prison. FBI is watching him. He's running around drugging white women, and he was on Nixon's enemies list being watched by the FBI. Think about it now. You got to think about it. But I'm going to tell you, since you mentioned NBC, when Bill Cosby tried to buy NBC, the way they justified not letting him buy the station is by giving Magic Johnson a channel, Comcast, Aspire channel, and they gave Diddy a channel. That was the first thing. But when Mr. Cosby got up from the meeting and he saw that they were giving him a hard time and he had the money, because at the time he was trying to buy not only NBC at the same time, he was trying to buy the Cleveland Browns because he was drafted to play football for the Cleveland Browns. And he decided not to go that route. So he walks over to the president, the head of NBC, Jewish guy, and he saw how the guy railroaded him from getting the station. And in front of everybody, he called Zucker, who is now the president of CNN. He called him a Nazi. That's what he called this Jewish man. And that Zucker vowed, he said, as long as I live, I will come after you. And look who paraded the women out against him, CNN.
CNN. Come on with it. Listen,
Bill Cosby is back on TV, but it's not the comeback he was looking for. More and more women are accusing the comedian of drugging and sexually assaulting them.
I remember being over there and not having any clothes on.
You were naked.
Tonight, in this, her first network television interview, Therese Saranese tells 2020 about her experience with Bill Cosby when she was just a 19-year-old model visiting Las Vegas in 1976. She says in Cosby's private dressing room after a performance, he handed her some pills.
And then he said, take these.
Did he tell you what they were?
No.
Did he tell you why?
No.
First and only time he drugged you, and then everything else after that was consensual?
No. There was another time where years went by. I think I...
What it is, running it down on these niggas. Sex, drugs, money, and murder, my nigga. You know how we did it, my nigga. Still be painting them bitches, my nigga. Ripping that roll and fucking your bitches. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. 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 Niggas, they never will hurt you. Niggas, they never will hurt you. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. Got the tracks right, understand how to get that. Ran down on them niggas with a flip back, new and
Gotti. I want to do this video real quick, talk about this whole, Bill Cosby coming home. I didn't get too in depth about it. I did like a quick little video about it, but let me just get in depth to it. So Bill Cosby was released yesterday, right? After, having his appeal denied. I was going to do a video about Dr. Cosby and I heard he got freed. So having his appeal denied by, Montgomery County, right? The higher courts in Pennsylvania, overturned that and released them. Conviction, cleared of all convictions and all that, right? Because Kevin Steele, who is a crooked district attorney, that literally used Dr. Cosby for a political agenda. Bill Cosby, to be honest, and I said this in my video that I did on my first channel, I said, Bill Cosby is a political prisoner. He's a political prisoner. He was locked up over hearsay evidence off of a off-brand journeyman comedian that was clout chasing and trying to get his career to pop off. Hannibal Buress, right? You don't even hear no more about Hannibal Buress. You don't even hear that much about him like they was talking about him before, right? Bill Cosby is free, right? And people is up in arms and have a problem with it. If people really read their deposition, and it's a lot of black people And this is why I say us as black people, we are so lost, and we have so much, we suffer from Willie Lynch and self-hate. And this is why we are in the state that we are in as a people, and we're going to stay in this state. And it's sad. It's really sad that we are in this state. Because if we believe what the media, the mass media, that has portrayed, like, I hear some of these people talking about, oh, the media always portray black men in this certain type of way, and how they were mass incarcerated, right? This is a man that was massively incarcerated, falsely accused of a crime that he did not commit. Falsely accused. A woman that wasn't believed by Bruce Castor, who was the district attorney that beat Ketta Steele. A district attorney of Montgomery County said that he did not believe that woman. And he made an agreement with Dr. Cosby, and the case was thrown. It was off the records, and it was thrown out because she was not believed, Andrew Constand, because she lied. How can you be a victim of rape and you constantly went to go see this man? She went to go see this man. She said she was a victim of sexual assault, but she went to go see Dr. Cosby more than one time, accepted gifts, went to shows. And she was exposed by not just only by the district attorney, but people that were her friends and her ex-lover. But because of Hannibal Buress, because of the mass media, because of all these lying women that came out, these washed up actresses, these prostitutes, these jump-offs, these, you know, like I said, washed up actresses, washed up models came out and lied on this man. Lied on this man. And was bad enough, while he was going through the trial, he lost his daughter. This is a man that lost his son, lost his daughter recently, while he was fighting for his freedom. He was massively incarcerated off of hearsay evidence, off of a greedy, crooked district attorney. Kevin Steele needs to be prosecuted. He needs to be sued. The whole state of Pennsylvania needs to be sued for what they did to Dr. Cosby. A lot of these public, outlets need to be sued. These schools that took money from Dr. Cosby, the schools that he donated money to, needs to be sued for taking their money back from this man. These companies that said they did not want to do business with him all need to be sued. Because this man wasn't no sexual deviant. He wasn't no sexual predator. They put a lie out there off of what a woman said. And people didn't even read the deposition. If you read it, it proved that he did nothing to these women. He did nothing to these women. But what people will try to say, oh, Dr. Cosby was this. If you read the paperwork, he did nothing to those women. And I'm sick of black people trying to not really be rational and say to themselves, wait a minute, you know what? That's right. It's some shady stuff here. No, they're not even saying that. They're not even calling it out. The man used his political, and I put this in the intro of my video. The man used Bill Cosby for his campaign ads. That if he was elected, he was going to convict Dr. Cosby. Are you serious? And people going to sit here and say that this wasn't, it's not a conspiracy. But I was hearing a lot of these washed up, bitter actors, washed up dudes. And I got a lot of respect for some of them. But a lot of them sound bitter. It was ones I respected that they gave their opinion. They had different opinions, and they, with Dr. Cosby and but I saluted them for saying that what happened was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like the Bill Dukes, the John Amos, the John Sallys, the Eddie Griffins, Faison Loves, even Boozy. But it was dudes that had that was so bitter and was hating, just had hate in their heart, that they just was like, oh, you know, he did me this way, and like, it was a whole lot of, and that's the problem with our people in our community, is that we got a lot of hate. We can have disagreements, but we got a lot of hate in our heart because we suffer from Willie Lynch. It's a slave mentality. The black people that said, oh, he needs to still be in jail. He is a sexual predator. He is a rapist. He needs to be in jail. Why does this man need to be in jail? Why? Why? This woman lied. If you do, and if you investigate what happened to him, this woman lied in the deposition. She lied. The Me Too movement was created to go after black men. That's what it was created for. The Me Too movement, if it was so much great and so much what it says it is, these women would have been came out. Why wait that many years to come out? And then when you come out, you know, it's a whole bunch of people jumping on a gravy train, sucking a person's blood to just get what they see. They feasting off the money. Dr. Cosby helped out his community a lot by donating, by supporting black children, by supporting the black community the way he did for so many years. Educating. And everybody that talks about Dr. Cosby is weird to me. Everybody that's dissing him, oh, he need to be in jail, y'all corny. Y'all only doing that for appeasement. I saw Mark Lamont Hill, his corny ass, talking about, oh, he need to be locked up. Why is everybody celebrating? Why shouldn't we not celebrate for a man that was found that was innocent? Y'all celebrated for Meek Mill, a rapper that knew what he was doing was wrong. But you telling me that a black man that educated his people, edified, uplifted his people, a man that basically was railroaded, and it was proven that he was railroaded by the state of Pennsylvania, the higher courts, that said this man, do not, they already said, do not go after this man with these same frivolous charges. It's the same thing they did to Michael Jackson. It's the same thing they doing to Dr. Cosby. It's an injustice. They don't care how successful you are in this country, they will come after you. Like Charles Dutton said, the hunt is on. This man, Kevin Steele, had an ad talking about the first day of him getting in office, being elected, he was going after Bill Cosby. And people sitting there saying, oh, he did it. People mad with Felicia Rashad for defending a man that she worked with, a colleague, a friend, somebody that has love for her. And y'all are sitting there talking about, oh, she wrong for that. F her, F them. Y'all is corny. Felicia Rashad, that was her friend. She has every right to defend him. It's the same thing they did to OJ in Vegas. This is what they do. So like I said, man, what happened to Dr. Cosby was terrible. It was ridiculous. It just shows you how crooked the justice system is in America. It just shows you that our people are so lost and we are so, ignorant that we'll attack people for supporting and defending a man, an icon, that a lot of you people wouldn't even have careers. Like I see Janet, what's her name, Hubert, going at Felicia Rashad. Like, it wouldn't be no Fresh Prince of Bel-Air if it wasn't for Bill Cosby. He was the one that pushed for black people to be shown in a better light on TV. And he got pushed back because of that. He got pushed back because that he wanted positivity on TV. That he didn't want us looking like buffoons, like we are right now on TV. This man's legacy has been tarnished. His reputation has been tarnished. They took his shows off of TV. But people, and the sad thing about it is that nobody sees the injustice that happened to Dr. Cosby. Nobody sees that. All they see is what a female said and read a deposition, and they didn't even hold that position. That's terrible. Reading is fundamentals. And I think a lot of us missed on that we should read before we say certain things. But hey, what am I? I'm just speaking from the heart. So I just want to say, my prayers go out to Dr. Cosby and his family. You know, I'm glad he's home to be with his family to celebrate his birthday, his 84th birthday, which is July 12th. Dr. Cosby's a cancer just like me, and he will be free to celebrate with his family. He has been in prison since 2018. He's been in prison almost 3 years now. Okay? He's finally with his family. That was an injustice by the American judicial system, and it shows you that there's only one justice. It's white justice, or it's two justice. White justice, where you get away with murder. And the black justice, they want you to die in prison. Sad.